Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
And we've just come back from A Haunting in Venice, the third in Kenneth Branagh's self-directed performances as Poirot. It started with Murder on the Orient Express, which we saw on the podcast, continued with Death on the Nile, which we saw on the podcast, and now Haunting in Venice, which is based on Halloween Party, obviously by Agatha Christie. Again, as with all Agatha Christie, I didn't know the story, didn't know who done it, didn't know what was going to happen and so on. Was this a story you were familiar with?
I wasn't actually, and you know, I'm a fan of Agatha Christie. I've been seeing the films all my life and the TV shows and so on, but this is one I wasn't familiar with. I thought I'd read, like, it's hard to know whether you've read all her novels because there are so many. But, you know, I certainly went through a period in my teenage years where I read everything I could get of Agatha Christie's.
It appears that a film has not been made of this story before, but it was adapted as part of the David Suchet TV programme,
right?
Which is to be expected because there are about 5,000 episodes of that.
Right.
I think they did them all. And this is coming out around Halloween time.
Yeah.
And it's, I would say, has less of a procedural feel to it than the previous two films did, in favour of edging towards horror to some degree. Certainly supernatural, or is playing with the supernatural, apparitions, things like this, and it's set at Halloween. The film explicitly says the Tina Fey character, who is an Agatha Christie analogue, a horror author who takes credit for Poirot's fame, she is American and explicitly says, we Americans have brought you loud music and something else, but we've also brought you Halloween. And it's Halloween, and kids are dressed up in masks and stuff, and we end up locked in a purportedly haunted house, seeking the answers to a murder or two. And Poirot is coming out of retirement. So again, this is the thing. I think one of the things you most dislike about these films is the focus on Poirot as so key. It's his story and stuff. Whereas Poirot is supposed to be the guy who comes in, and the people's stories that are important are those of the victims and the potential murderers and so on and so forth.
Completely arrogant, yeah. I think. And, you know, it's been a problem each time, but it's particularly bad this time, I felt.
Very, very heavy again on the Poirot. Although it doesn't have a scene to rival the opening of Death on the Nile, which was about Poirot during the war and seeing him, before he was a detective and so on. But it is still all about him. The war thing, though, I think is interesting, and the whole film is informed by being set in post-war Europe. Everyone has come back from the war, been affected by it in some way. You've got the Hungarian character. I should say spoilers will be coming up. I don't know exactly when I'm going to start spoiling stuff, but let's say spoilers are coming up. You've got the two young Hungarian characters who have been displaced by war and looking to make their way to America, looking for ways to make money on the way. You've got the doctor character who served and liberated Bergen-Belsen and was unable to save countless victims of the Holocaust that he encountered. It pervades the film.
I mean, I just think, to me, I think it's the worst Agatha Christie adaptation I have ever seen. It's completely misguided. And I think part of what's wrong with that is that attempt at attributing significance in those ways, which actually trivializes everything. It attempts to kind of give them more import than they have. I mean, this is a whodunit, kind of, the reason why Agatha Christie is so popular and so enjoyable to watch on film is because you have these exotic locations, these sumptuous places, a murder committed in them that are committed by these types that are recognizable types, right? And who are usually kind of upper class with a kind of a sprinkling of lower class people. This thing of, escapees from pogroms and, shell-shocked doctors and so on. I kind of, it isn't really carried through. It's kind of something that's there, that I think actually kind of trivializes it.
I agree it's not carried through thoroughly enough. But like I say, it does inform the film, and it gives it a certain, there's a kind of, the whole film is about people kind of, I don't know, living through or coming to terms with grief of various sorts. I mean, the backstory to the house, and the woman who owns it is that she lost her daughter there, and that's and how did she die? She, jumped out of a window, suicide into one of the canals. That sense of grief kind of pervades the whole thing, and then the question is: did she do it? Was it a suicide? Did someone do it to her? Is the house haunted, as the Camille Cottin character thoroughly believes? And we start off with this séance that is supposedly going to speak to her.
I hated every moment of this film.
Also, just and the other thing with Poirot himself is he is thoroughly disillusioned, and I think this is related to the post-war thing. He is thoroughly disillusioned with human behavior, and particularly they keep on talking about the soul and does God exist and so on, and he is completely has no sympathy for that at all. Again, though, I agree with you that this is something that is very generally in the film, and that is the thing. The thing about Poirot and the soul and God is the strand of this, which it's most thoroughly trying to work through and turn into a character arc, and it doesn't sell it.
I mean, what it should have been trying to work through is the mechanics of the filming, the characters, their relationship to each other, how they're introduced, how they're connected, how they're revealed, right? And really, so much of this is about Poirot, who is simply not interesting. I mean, I was thinking while watching it that, to me, Kenneth Branagh as a director is the nadir. He's as bad as you can get. He's somebody who has an idea of how things should be, but actually who can't do them somehow, right? As an actor, he's Marmitey, right?
Mm-hmm.
People love him. People think he's one of the greatest actors of all time. Other people don't like him. But what I've decided in this, whether he is Marmitey as an actor, that is definitely on stage or on TV, he doesn't carry enough interest on film. And actually, very few of these characters do. Usually, kind of, these films have been, each of these roles is like a kind of an all-star vehicle where you have, like, generally, great stars of yesteryear, right? Because these Agatha Christie films, they always have a nostalgic element. They always evoke a kind of a nostalgia for this idea of how things used to be, right? Which goes contrary to this, like, escape from the Nazis thing. But kind of almost all the TV series and almost all the films done previously, they have that nostalgia, that nostalgic element, really. And so, using stars like Lauren Bacall or Sean Connery, Betty Davis, Maggie Smith, kind of different films have had kind of David Niven, Angela Lansbury. Kind of there's always a mixture of like these stars from yesteryear. Certainly in the first Murder on the Orient Express, it was almost all stars from yesteryear. Richard Widmark, Ingrid Bergman, kind of in some of the others, there's a sprinkling of more contemporary people, Mia Farrow and so on. And then kind of, the role of Poirot is to solve the murder and maybe to witness. And, at the beginning, he's almost anonymous, like he just happens to overhear something or, the focus is on these stars. This one is completely the opposite. The focus is entirely on Poirot, and kind of the casting is off because I suppose you can call, Michelle Yeoh and Jamie Dornan stars, and then Tina Fey, I suppose, is very recognizable, though completely dead on screen, from television. The other people are really unknown. So he's playing with the formula for Agatha Christie in ways that seem very, at best unlucky, but really, I think, ill-informed. He's doing something different that jeopardizes what was and that doesn't succeed in kind of conveying whatever it is he's doing it. And I think he does that on every level, right? From the casting to the choice of camera angles, it was driving me crazy, you know. These close-ups alternated in kind of, you know, with a normal kind of lens, alternating with these huge distortive, you know, widescreen things filmed behind candelabra where you can barely make out what's happening. You know, just these stupid shots that I think, you know, were meant to convey, you know, that things were skewed and maybe the possibility of the supernatural cumulatively, but that at any given point seemed completely unmotivated. Like you didn't know why the camera was there or why kind of, you know, this distortive lens was being used. It really was driving me nuts. And I hated it. I hated it, right? Because, and that's what I'm saying, that, you know, Branagh as a director to me strikes me as someone who knows of the possibilities of cinema. Yeah, he knows of kind of playing with the lenses and playing with angles and so on.
Because it doesn't even occur to some directors.
That's right. So how that can bring dynamism to the screen, it seems to me that he almost inevitably always makes the wrong choices. Yeah, they seem unmotivated.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. So I think the film, in the way it's shot and it's in the kind of production design overall as well, is clearly going for a gothic supernatural horror, you know, kind of thing. And you can see it reaching for that, but it's not doing it well enough.
No. I mean, you know, in other places, a noise will make you jolt out of your seat, or, you know, kind of the wind fluttering, or even the creation of ambiance in the haunted house. Like, you know, I wanted to see that beautiful palazzo, and I mean, he doesn't even let you see it. It's all either dark or distorted. So you actually never get a sense of the place, why the place meant so much to the character, you know, why it's now run down, why it could be mistaken for being haunted, like kind of, you know, the basic ABCs of film directing are just absent. It was really, like, you know, you said I kept kind of moaning through the film, and I wasn't conscious of being moaning, but those things really irritated me, right?
Yeah.
And then the combination of that mobile camera, then, right? You know, which I really hated as well.
That's certainly an aspect of Branagh's style in directing these films that we don't see in previous ones. So, you know, if you think about the difference between the Sidney Lumet's Murder on the Orient Express and Branagh's, you can't wait to get out of the train. All the time he's showing you shots from outside the train, the drama of the storm that they're caught in. There's a point where Poirot is running on top of the train for whatever reason. The climactic scene takes place outside of the train in the sort of tunnel that they've just come out of, and so on. Things are constantly happening outside of the train, whereas Lumet's version is in the train. It's claustrophobic. The frame is filled with people, and you know, you get the sense of it has a feeling of like The Thing, almost, of like we are stuck here. I mean, actually, to be fair, the Thing in particular has a lot of shots of outside the base, just to kind of that makes the outside into, you know, something hostile, and shows just how isolated they are. It's not the case in Branagh's version. It's about freeing up the action, you know, because in Lumet's you get that claustrophobia and that feeling of what tensions will rise in, you know, kind of boiling the pressure cooker sort of thing, and I think he's much more consistent here about staying inside the building. We go up to the roof at one point. That's as far outside as we get, pretty much. But he's not very effectively making it into, you know, into a pressure cooker, haunted house, those kinds of things that it should be doing. It's not very effective.
No. And I thought there was a real egocentric betrayal of the other actors, right? Like, you know, so for example, I thought Michelle Yeoh was very good, right? You know, but the way that she was photographed, like, you know, you could have made her seem more glamorous or more otherworldly, or, you know, and she was the best, really. The others, I kept thinking, why were they even cast, right? Like, I thought Tina Fey was very bad. I thought she was completely dead behind the eyes. And actually, there were laughs in some of her lines. And she didn't really, you know, you'd expect her to be really good at that.
Yeah.
And she wasn't. And then the others, like the mother, you know, kind of that would have been kind of like a great part for some star from yesteryear who meant something to the audience, right? You know, instead, I don't know who she is, right? So this is like a kind of a weirdly cast Agatha Christie big budget movie.
Yeah, well, it's a slightly cheaply cast one. really.
Yeah, very much.
And I think, and it feels like the prestige of being in a big budget Poirot film has lost some of its luster since the previous two. Although it is making money, but it feels like maybe they couldn't attract.
No,
people.
I don't think this one made very much money.
Well, it's out at the moment. It's made over 100 million so far.
That's not very much for this kind of film.
But we'll see. We'll see. And I don't know.
Well, I think it's interesting that a lot of the conventions of the Agatha Christie film are now being done much better by that. What was it? The
Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson.
Yeah,
but the Knives Out films.
And the casting is an example of that, right? You have people like Kate Hudson, in the other film, and I think, and current pop stars and so on, right? Like kind of almost everyone in those films is someone you recognize or that kind of contribute meaning in some way. Yeah, contribute kind of something by what why their star persona signify to the characters they play, which is not the case here. I mean, and actually the person who I think was treated the worst was, is it Isabelle or Claudette Cotin?
Camille Cotin.
Camille Cotin, the actress from 10%, who's such a joy to watch in 10%, and here she's very unattractively photographed, I feel there's a real kind of betrayal of the actress, really. But also you don't expect a mass audience to necessarily know who she is or what she brings.
No, she's been in some America. We saw her in Stillwater and one or two other things. So she's receiving some exposure to English-speaking audiences, but primarily she's not very well known.
Yeah. So, anyway, the success of Branagh as a filmmaker kind of really escapes me. I mean, I think I've watched almost all his films. I very much remember enjoying his Henry V, right? And I think the Belfast film that he did, right? I think there was such a joy in the writing and the performers, though I think even then I argue that some of the direction was quite terrible.
Yeah, I don't remember us liking it very much.
No, I don't think you did.
No, both of us. I mean,
well, I love Jamie Dornan in that, and I love the interplay between him and his wife. I thought some of the direction was just terrible, really, and sentimental. That the use of Judi Dench in that was, I thought beyond the pale. But he's someone who's done a lot of hits. Yeah, it's very interesting that he's had hits, but golly. Like, I think Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was a hit. I think that again was a hit. I don't see Peter's Friends here. Is this?
Peter's Friends as director. Henry V in 1989. Dead Again 1991. Peter's Friends 1992. Much Ado About Nothing. Frankenstein. In the Bleak Midwinter. Hamlet. Love's Labour's Lost.
So a lot of Shakespeare.
Yeah, then he kind of got out of his Shakespeare groove. Listening. Oh, that's a short film. Never mind. As You Like It, that's more Shakespeare. The Magic Flute, Sleuth, then Thor, which was all different because then getting into Marvel, and his Thor film, I think he only did the one. It's not that fondly remembered. It's very well remembered for its obsession with Dutch angles, but not a lot else. Jack Ryan, he did a Jack Ryan film? Really? Cinderella, Murder on the Orient Express, All Is True. I don't know that.
I don't know that one.
Artemis Fowl, Belfast, Death on the Nile, and this.
Okay.
And I think he's got a Bee Gees film coming up.
So I've seen really like 80% of his filmography, and kind of he's somebody who was never great to begin with, but seems to get worse. As the years go by. I don't understand, how he keeps getting financed. Except, I suppose, he landed Thor, and it made money, and then the first Orient Express, kind of made money.
Well, each of them has clearly made enough to warrant making another one.
Yeah. So,
although I don't quite agree with you on his presence as an actor, I kind of do in this, I think, because none of the characters is well developed enough, and Poirot is one of them, which you wouldn't normally complain about. But the film is seeking to make him into more of an important character than he otherwise would be. But I just happened to rewatch quite a lot of Tenet the other day, and I really liked. I mean, he's quite hammy in it. You know, he's very sort of typical Russian Bond villain. He wants to kill everyone, but I did like him in it, and you know,
I think. I mean, I as I said, he's very Marmitey as an actor, but I think for me, he's not a film star, right? And he doesn't have that charisma. So, which is why I'm saying that he might work better on television or on the stage. You know, I mean, some people are very enthusiastic about him. They think he's one of the greatest actors of all time. You know, I think it's interesting that, you know, he's had success like Wallander and so on. But you know, he's not a film star. He just isn't. But he's casting himself as one.
Yes, he's giving himself the opportunity.
Because if you see like the rest of his filmography, I mean, he will have leading roles, but it's rare that a film is built around him, you know. And so I'm not disputing whether he's good or he's not good. You know, I'm just saying that he's not a film star.
No, he's not a star, but he can be quite a pleasant character actor.
Yes, I mean, I have enjoyed him as such, but this calls for more. You know, you have to want to continue looking at him, and he has to surprise you, and so on. And he just doesn't in this film, I think.
No,
you know, to the point where I was watching these close-ups with him, and I was so bored that I was saying, "My God, somebody should have done better with that mustache." You know, the mustache is too neat, and you can see that it's glued on. You know, the little thing on his chin has 3 curly cues that are so neatly placed. Yeah. So. And really, if you're looking at a close-up of an actor and you're just thinking about, you know, how bad the hair job is, there's a problem with the actor, right?
Yeah, no, I don't have a lot to add. I mean, I didn't have high expectations going in. I liked the first film more than you did. The second, I wasn't impressed with. And this I would have happily missed.
Yeah, well, I want to, you know, my friends had all complained about how bad it was, but I want to see it. I want to see it because I really like Michelle Yeoh. You know, I really love Jamie Dornan. I really like Tina Fey. And I love Venice. And I love Agatha Christie, right? So, you know, sometimes people say it's terrible and you think, well, how bad can it be? Because, you know, I often watch like Agatha Christie movies or TV shows at home. And, you know, you're just quite happy. Like, even if it's not very good, it kind of, for some reason, it's a very pleasant watch, right? You know, so I did go to it with an open mind, but I really do think that it's terrible. And actually, kind of looking at the Metacritic thing, where 75% of the critics gave it positive reviews, you know, kind of my question is like, what does that say about film criticism at the moment? Really, I'm appalled. On that note, thank you very much for listening. We are eavesdropping at the movies, and we are on
Apple Podcasts, Audible, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter at Eavesdrop Movies, and Blue Sky, eavesdropping.bsky.social, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.